Welcome back, guys. Jimmy Jules153 here with another Dreams Logic tutorial. Today we'll be looking at how to easily make a multiplayer character out of your existing puppets. You can see here that we've got a single puppet, which is Cat Girl by Tails Song, and when we press play, 4 different versions of this character get created from the single emitted puppet. You can see the player number above the puppet, and each of them would be controlled by players 1 through 4 if we had 4 controllers plugged in. First of all, we'll go over how easy this is to transfer to your own puppet. I've made this remixable, so you can just grab a copy and make a single player game a multiplayer capable game really easily. This is what you'll get with the remixable asset I've released. You don't even need to open the chip to get this to work, so we'll go through how this works after. First of all, what we need to do is copy the light bulb chip to the character's logic chip. I've got a fresh copy of Cat Girl here, and I'm going to open up the puppet logic, and then the controller logic. We're just going to drag the light bulb chip directly onto the puppet's controller logic, like so. Once it's on there, we're first going to want to plug everything that's currently plugged into the die port on the controller sensor into the die port on the player number modifier. Once we've done that, we're just going to want to plug in the P1, P2, 3, and 4 outputs into their corresponding ports on the controller sensor. If we just open the tweak menu and head to the important properties page, you'll see that we've got player 1, 2, 3, and 4 inputs here. We're just going to plug the P1 into player 1, P2 into player 2, and so on. Then for the last part with the character, we're going to want to change the color of an item of their clothing so that the players can differentiate between the character they're controlling and the other characters on the screen. We're just going to open up the tweak menu of the item or items of clothing that we want to change, and plug the color output from the light bulb chip into the color of this item of clothing. We're then going to turn the tints all the way up, or our color won't show through the default color of the sculpt. That's all you need to do for the character. You've now got a multiplayer ready character, and we just need to emit it. For this, we'll head over to the other chip in the set, the player emitter. All you need to do with this is open the emitter's tweak menu and select your puppet to emit, and that's literally it. I've also made it really easy to only emit characters for the number of players that are in the game. If I turn this always emit 4 players switch off, it'll now only emit 2 characters because there's 2 users signed into my PlayStation at the moment. Just note that the number of players isn't controlled by the number of controllers connected to the PlayStation, it's controlled by the number of users that are currently logged into the PlayStation. So if you wanted to reduce the number of players, you'd log out of your profiles rather than just turning off the controller. Finally, because we've got some custom death logic, we'll need to use this active spawn tag as our respawn location. If you already had checkpoints in your level, you just replace them with these tags, and the puppet will respawn there when they die, but otherwise you just put it at the start of your level. That's really all there is for implementing this. It's a really quick and simple way to get a multiplayer functional character. If you wanted to make this a bit more custom though, I'll go through how you would do that and some of the things you can use this for. First of all, we'll go through how you would change the player colors if you don't like these 4. It's as simple as opening up the color example chip that we've got here and changing the colors of the nodes. If we wanted to make player 1 yellow and player 2 blue, we just change the first node to yellow and the second node to blue and hit play. You can see that's changed the color of our 2 characters. For this next example, I'm just going to animate the character so all the chips turn back on and we can see the signals. We've got a chip down here that has 4 tags on it, one representing each player. Only one of these will ever be active, so we can use these to track specific players if we need to. You can see the number splitter chip here at the moment is outputting from the first port. If we change the player number to player 2 with the player number override, which is just here so that we can see what our player looks like, you can see that the number modifier chip starts outputting from the second port, activating the tag for player 2. The same goes for 3 and 4, it'll just activate different ports on the corresponding chips. Just make sure you put the override back to 0 when you're done. We'll go through an example now of how you could also use this setup to make the players not hurt themselves. If you've got a health modifier in your logic, you can plug these same 4 player outputs on the face of the chip into the labels for your puppet. So we'll make player 1 have the label of friend, player 2 have the label of foe, player 3 can be machine, and player 4 can be missile. It really doesn't matter which labels you choose unless you've got other label logic already in your scene. You can see that because the player is player 2, it's labeled as a foe. And if it was player 1, it'd be friend. Now for the health modifier. We're going to want to make sure that the player can't hit its own label. So if the character is labeled as a friend, we want them to not be able to hit the friend label. For this, we'll use the opposite outputs underneath the top 4 here. Because it's player 1, the first port isn't activated. We'll jump into the labels page on our health modifier and plug these ports into the same labels as we did on our puppet. So player 1 would go into friend, player 2 into foe, player 3 into machine, and player 4 into missile. If you've chosen different labels for your puppet, you'd use them instead. Now you can see, because it's player 1, the health modifier will not hit anything that's labelled with friend, which is what our character is labelled with. If we change this to player 2, it won't hurt a foe, and that label is now active on our puppet. It will hurt the other 3 characters though. The final customizable thing on here is the number of lives. All you do is change the value slider to the number of lives you want the player to have, and the puppet will be destroyed after they lose that many lives. Here's just a quick preview of the player number assigner if you're interested. Basically what this is doing is counting the number of players that are in the level, and then using that number to change the amount of times the player is omitted, and to change how many numbers to assign. This is a very customizable and expandable setup for multiplayer games. It's exactly what I've used in Create a Clash to give the characters their own player numbers. That's all for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.